Hey guys, it's the Drabble Geek here, and welcome back to Ace Attorney, where we are going into the second part of trial today, and we are going to be talking to Adrian Andrews, our client's manager. I did recently get a comment about my audio settings, so I have changed them, but it might take a little bit if I need to change them again because I record usually about 2 weeks in advance. I try to at least, so let me know if these are good. And also do know I have been told that I am a quiet talker in real life and people can barely hear me, so I'm not offended at all saying that I have a really soft voice. But let's get into the story. Dude, I can't believe that Adrian. No way, not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. She is your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife you used at dinner was, well, her. So after the ceremony, during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. See, she could have also easily planted that blood cover button in your hakama. But we still have to question how there was like another suit walking around. There's also that. Because she was the one that came to wake me up. Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she is the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan Corda. I don't think she's the real killer. I think there's like something else going on that I'm just not aware of. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. I'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of today. Give me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze. Okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Phoenix? You think her motive is related to Celeste Impact's missing suicide note, right? Yes. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impact as her strength and reason to live. But then Miss Impact suddenly killed herself. Sounds like she left a suicide note and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Corda, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think that Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Corda. I ought to get the suicide note back. That sounds plausible, but one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told us about their relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependency issues with regards to Miss Impact. Edgeworth. It was Edgeworth. Looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. Don't let your guard down yet. I thought he was on our side. This is like really sad. Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please. Prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court, Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Mr. Juan Cordo's room. She still has that card. What is your occupation? I'm the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Ma Angard. I see. Now then. Before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request. Yes, sure. What is it? I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently. No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossip Land. If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relation to the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Corda. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan, but this was a private matter between Juan and myself. So was it a fry and bait matter, or was it a bait and fry? Reminds me of fishing, but I didn't kill him. No one is accusing you of that. I think there's someone who would beg to differ. I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews. Very well then. Witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. Interesting. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room, and there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene as in the crime scene photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. You poured yourself a glass of juice? Yes. Sadly, I didn't remember not to touch things at the scene of the crime. I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness. Phoenix? She's one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yes, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing. Disrupt her pacing? She's the type of woman who's easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking. So if you attack when she least suspects it, the instant you let up on your offense is the instant this trial is over. Understand? I think I do understand what Mia's saying. Not too sure, though. Let me save it so I can get straight back to this point. It was time for the show to start, and I went to get him from his room. And what was Mr. Ungart doing at the time? He was taking a nap. He was worn out from his many performances as the Nickel Samurai during the ceremony. Mr. Ungart did say he was taking a nap. Then I guess you could say it could not have taken out of his... I'm sorry, I'm obviously reading this wrong. Then I guess you could say it could not have been taken out of his room, yes? Excuse me, what are you? Right, I thought years of school would have taught you how to construct a sentence. Okay, so it wasn't just me who was confused. If you can't make a sensible sentence with a subject, then I'll make one for you. Watch. Did you, Miss Andrews, remove Mr. Ongart's knife from his room? No? Subject, verb, object, right? Did you skip basic grammar? The witness may continue. And why did you do that? As a friendly gesture, Juan was making an appearance with the other heroes. The show was supposed to be a show of friendship, huh? I'm gonna press further because there was like the confession bit. Is that the only reason? I beg your pardon? What are you implying? You had a certain goal in mind when you started to get close to him, correct? So perhaps you had a more personal matter to discuss with the victim? Sorry, but I didn't have any such intentions in mind at that time. Can't get her to talk without a strong piece of evidence, I guess. Maybe continue now. Witness, what did you see when you got to his room? After that, I went to Juan's room. There's nothing. I don't think I have anything that directly contradicts that. Wait, unless... Can I interrupt her in the middle of the statement? I'm going to see. The sleeping. Oh, I went too far back. Oops. After that, I went to Juan's room. I don't think I can. Yeah, I can't present anything. What did you see when you got to his room? There was a dead body. I was in shock. You were in shock? What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person, and despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Corda. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock, and you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not. I see. What I saw was naturally the exact same scene as in the crime scene. What did you see? This is the photo you're referring to, correct? Yes, the one with the knife lodged in his chest. And the guitar case was like this too? Yes, it was open and empty, of course. And then, what did you do next, witness? I'm gonna keep... I don't know if questioning her about the photo will do anything. Juice? Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. But you didn't drink any of it, did you? Huh? There were no lip marks left on this wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down without drinking it. Miss Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Corda, you were in great shock, and that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time. The fact that that's just completely weird. Your mind was a complete blank? I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing. What one thing? Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now? Yeah, press further. Miss Andrews, I'm convinced that, as you said, you made a mistake at the crime scene. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I. I'm sorry, it's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over. The flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime scene photo? So we thought that was part of the ruckus. This mess of glass shards? That changes a lot of things. It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case. Why did you withhold such an important piece of information? I'm sorry, I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people would simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess. We did, and that was the problem. It looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal to your testimony. I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else. Fellas, I was about to faint. What's the photo? You only touched the vase? What kind of flower vase was it? It was a glass vase, and was fairly big and heavy. I thought I would try to take Juan's pulse, so I set the glass I was holding down on the dresser, and that's when my elbow accidentally hit the vase. That's odd, I thought she was always in total control of herself. That's what she would like people to think. Always be mindful of the gap between your perception and reality. It doesn't sound like there's any glaring contradictions in her testimony just now. I warned you earlier that she would not crack so easily. The only way to make her is to keep on the offensive and not let up. The only way you're going to catch her is with some very strong, decisive evidence. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. Let me look through all the evidence again. The glossy photo. like something to confess after the show, the camera, the article, simple guide map, empty, there was some water, but only the top of the lid bears fingerprint next to the, although the water could be the flower vase falling, I suppose now. The glass with fingerprints, the crime scene photo. The button, suicide report, the attempted suicide report, but that just proves that it's very likely she could have been in shock. Strangled with a scarf and stabbed, Gatewater engraved, and this photo. Went to get Matt. After that I went to Juan's and there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was naturally the same scene as in the crime scene photo. I'm gonna save it because I'm not too sure if this is the right thing I need to do, but I want to present the crime scene photo and be like, is this really what you saw? I don't know though. You testified that you knocked the flower vase over. Is this correct? Yes. And are you sure it fell onto the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said? It's not some problem, it's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar vase was wet with water. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Miss Andrews, you testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. Oh, it was on like the back of it, not inside of it. Oh, I was confused about where the water was. However, if that was true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside. I thought it was wet on the inside, personally. So I got that confused, I suppose. That's very true. Furthermore, there's one other strange thing about this guitar case. And what is that? Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor. What is wrong with that? The guitar case was open when the vase fell. There should be pieces in it. The glass shards should be inside, not outside the case. What is your point, right? That the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over, which means she would have touched more. Is that all? No, think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else. Yes, that's right. She did implicitly say she didn't touch the guitar case. But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case, unless she got someone to take it to the studio. That may very well be. However, the empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case, doesn't it? I still think it's a matter of just because the guitar case is empty didn't mean that someone who was after it knew it was empty. Like, you have to open it in order to find out if it is empty. Like, that's still the reasoning I'm going with. The fact that it was empty means nothing. It seems that there is no deeper meaning to the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about it? Yes. The empty guitar case? I believe this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this. But it is you. Can't believe I'm doing this either. The fact that it was empty means nothing. Anyone else could have thought there was stuff in it. That's all I'm saying. And the fact that even Edgeworth doesn't see that is very surprising. Alright, I'll follow along. For now. Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case. Yes, Your Honor. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know. It looks like this really wasn't a very important point. This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination. Usually, anyway, to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man. I highly doubt that. But also, let me save again. Don't remember, because I was dazed. During your testimony just now, did you remember those events clearly in your mind? Well, you see. Are you sure you are the one who opened the guitar case? She's waiting for someone to tell her she should answer or not. Sounds like her dependent side is taking over. Well, Miss Andrews? Yes, it was me. I suppose I must have opened it. So, you opened the guitar case then? Yes, well, maybe. Why did you open the guitar case? Huh? Miss Corda's dead body was right there in front of you, wasn't it? I would think that the first thing you would do is call for help, not open a guitar case. As the witness just said multiple times when she found the dead body, she was dazed. Maybe I was curious to know if the bright red guitar was alright or not. I thought maybe the criminal took it. Why would she care about the bright red guitar? But getting back on topic. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. Was it really empty? I was just wondering if maybe when you opened the case, the guitar was still inside? Have a little professionalism. Alright, as for why I opened the case, even I don't know. Well, like my thing is that her fingerprints weren't found on the guitar case. There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprints on this guitar case are those of the victim. Ah. What is it, Miss Andrews? You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case. What do you mean? What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time? Then your fingerprints wouldn't be on the tomato juice glass. Gloves? But why would you be wearing gloves at the time? It was the night of the award ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness is wearing gloves at the scene of the crime. Yeah, that's strange, because we found her fingerprints. You were wearing gloves? Isn't that a little strange? Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? Yeah, the tomato juice. I have your proof right here, this wine glass. The wine glass. You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass. Ah. Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, Wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case? Ooh, her glasses broke. Oh, she has a new pair, it's fine. Order, order, order. Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time. What do you mean? I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here, but it's just an empty case. I wonder if it really was empty, though. But the guitar, the bright red guitar, was at the studio. Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. What was in the guitar case was not the bright red guitar. You don't mean it was the bright white guitar. Wait, that's not right either. I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves, despite the fact that on the case... Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court toward an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided... No, Your Honor. Please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it is wide open in this photo of the crime scene. I am sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder. If you are so sure, right, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please, enlighten us as to why the guitar case has anything to do with this murder. Can you do that, Mr. Wright? Well, let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case. The bright red guitar not being the only thing. You don't mean to suggest that a bright black guitar? No, not that. So, you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty. Is that it, right? I want to say something I didn't intend to prove. Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now then, let's have it. What was inside the case at the time of the murder? I'm going to say the suicide note. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. And why would something like that be inside a guitar case, let alone this one? Why, Mr. Wright? Why? Well, I just thought it might have been possible. I have a suggestion. Why don't you put that in the void where your brain is supposed to be? Yes, and never bring it out again. Oh my god. I'm going to assume that I'm supposed to be able to prove it. Right? Can you prove that the guitar case was not empty? Okay, I'm going to look through the evidence again before that happens. Nickel Samurai. His weapon was found in the room. Color, Lotta's camera. The article. Well, that article was published everywhere. That doesn't make sense. The guitar case. The wine glass. Crime scene photo. What else could have been in it? The only thing I can think of is the suicide note. Actually, like if it's not the suicide note, then what? What was inside this case? What do you think the outfit was? That's the next best thing I can think of. This is a photograph. Yes, but what is important is what is in that picture, Your Honor. In this picture, doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I am proposing is... Inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. What? I mean, it works. Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Right? Are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? To not have your face being seen? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct? You mean this photo? Order. Order. It looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we? Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later. The real murderer was hiding inside a costume. Wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Matt Onguard's. Why would something of the defendant be in the victim's room? Well, she is the manager and they're supposedly dating. It's quite easy for her to have done something to the guitar and put something else in it. And inside the guitar case, of all places. True. That is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What was the Nickel Samurai? Yeah, it was a spare costume. Mr. Onguard did not take his costume off during the break. In that case, the costume we were talking about was a spare one. What? Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewater Hotel? Yes, that is what I'm saying. And how do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case? It would mean the victim himself had brought the spare to the ceremony on purpose. Because he was supposed to confess something. And Matt had no clue what the heck it was about. So that's where the confession was. But why? The victim, Mr. Korda, was the Jammin Ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act? And therein lies the sticking point. What are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue? Huh? No, I just... Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai spare costume? Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer. And then answer with gusto. I believe in you. Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was... this. What is this? On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference. Press conference? Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up, right? But what struck me as strange was that Mr. Onguard himself said he had no idea what he was supposed to be holding a press conference. That he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. But how can that be? The way I see it, that can only mean one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Korda himself. The victim? Yes. The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Korda was going to hold the press conference as the Nickel Samurai. He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference? But why would the victim do such a thing? They're rivals. That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I'm concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference. The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And by confessed, I wager he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan Korda, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt Ungard. Yes, I guess that is what it would mean. But if that's the case, that's not a confession, that's public disclosure. Miss Andrews? I can't see why you are pros at what you do. Pardon me? Yes, just as you say, the press conference was set up by Juan. Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this. I was the one he asked to help set it up, and the person who prepared the second costume for him. That was also me. Exactly as I said. You. Juan had bet everything on the Jammin' Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway. He was going to ruin him, huh? Looks like somehow Juan had his hands a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed. What? And do you know what this secret of Mr. Ungard's is, Mr. Andrews? That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is. Ah, I see. I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone, but that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all. Protect Mr. Ungard? And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us the truth about your behavior. Yes, Your Honor, I understand. Okay, I had a feeling that she didn't have that she wasn't the murderer, but still. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him. Okay, so to that point, if someone else knew there was a spare costume lying around, they could have gone anywhere. That's the thing. And the spare costume was gone. So there's another person posing as Matt running around. This does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit. The defense can find no fault with this testimony. I am ready to make a ruling. Please keep in mind as you cross-examine Mr. Wright. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. Which we will try our best, Phoenix. No promises, though. Let's save it again. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Would you say that was your intuition speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. Ugh. If you want me to prove that someone did it, you need 3 things. 3 things? A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and finally, decisive evidence. And if you think these 3 things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix. You didn't teach that to us in school, at least not from what I remember. May I continue now? Matt had to kill Juan no matter what, but if he was stupid and didn't know anything. So would you say this need came from the press conference? Yes. Do you know why Juan chose that event and that hotel for the conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved Matt Ungard. And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews? Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. Ongard himself didn't know anything about the press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? I don't believe I have proof, no. She's right about that. Anyway, the important thing here is that this information was not in your testimony. Yes, I agree, Miss Andrews. Please correct your testimony, if you please. Grasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? We're grasping at anything we can. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I feeling that Matt was the murderer. I know what his... I know what his motive was, but I don't have any way to prove it. Great. He didn't have an alibi. But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Ongard was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that too was a lie so you could cover for Mr. Ongard? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time. I keep trying, but I can find no flaws with what Miss Andrews has said. It can't say the same for some people here in this courtroom, however. And the judge is glaring straight at Mia. He's glaring at you, smart guy. His thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. My thoughts were confirmed. What did you trail off at the end for? You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? Button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja's costume. While the dude was asleep, he could have had anything happen to him. Talking about this button, correct? That button was found in the pleats of Matt's hakama. Isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me with an icy stare, yes. Ms. Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony. That button was torn off of Juan during his fight with Matt. How do you... My thing is, how can you prove that? And how do you know that? When the ends of the threads and the button costume matched up, they were found, or so I heard. But why would Miss Andrews know all the case down to such fine detail? Don't look at me like that. Just because I'm prepared and you are not. But I thought I had her for sure this time. If there's anything to trip her up on, it has to be here. But where and what? But what you really did was stab the guy in the back, didn't you? Not the worst possible time. Who's to say she really stabbed the guy in the back, as you put it? This witness could have disclosed things about Mr. Ongard at any time. Why then would she wait until there was a large audience before doing so? The same reason why Mr. Corda planned such an elaborate conference. Miss Andrews wanted to cause Mr. Ongard as much damage as she possibly could. This witness bears ill will towards the defendant. This isn't the Phoenix Wright Wax Philosophical Power Hour. And please, stop slandering the witness. As I expected, Miss Andrews' testimony seems pretty solid. Really? Because to me it sounded a little wishy-washy. Wishy-washy. Well, I guess we'll see if I can press a little more. I know his motive. He didn't have an alibi. And decisive evidence. So the thing is, we have a motive. We don't have an alibi. And we have decisive evidence. It was ripped, covered in Corda's blood, but there was no fingerprints. But we've kind of sort of proven that this wasn't. But like if that was her, it would have been quite easy. Don't see anything to confess. But if you had to protect him, why did you set up this conference? Nope. I hate when that happens. Feeling Matt had a quill no matter what. There's no way you could have known that. Okay, so what I think I need to do is correct these pieces of the alibi. So like I've mistaken her decisive evidence and her motive. So I think now that that's been added to the Okay, let me also save that. There we go, I fixed the testimony again. Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him. Likely story. Can I do that again? Would you say that was your intuition speaking? Okay, I thought by changing the testimony, prove it. Has Mr. Encart done something to hurt or betray you personally? Why do you ask? You were the one who helped Mr. Corda with his press conference, and that event was supposed to bring down Mr. Encart, yet you still helped out. Person on trial right now is Mr. Encart, right? What the witness was thinking, helping the victim with his plan, is none of our concern. In any case, this means that the defendant had a motive to kill. Why do I keep doing this to myself? I don't have an alibi. The button was turned off during this fight. Can I show the picture and be like, yo, if you really meant that, nope. I hate this. And also it takes way too long to go through that. Torn off during the fight. I had to protect him. I still think like the tar makes no sense. The thing is, how would Matt know the motive? I don't personally think he's smart enough to do that. I also promised her not to bring up the suicide, but we did technically do that. Oops. Map of the Gatewater. Okay, so like my thinking currently is that she would have killed in the costume, gotten rid of it somewhere, and then walked back in to give herself an alibi for being in the room. That's like the only thing. So, according to this guide, what I'm supposed to do is go to the fight, go back to the fight thing, and then present the autopsy. If I was good at doing that, which I'm not apparently. It makes sense now that I'm looking at that one piece, but it's okay. Right. This is the victim's autopsy report. Clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off the costume when? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly, which means this is impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle, because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. I thought he was just in the process of being strangled, not like fully dead. Okay, that makes more sense when I'm thinking about it. I thought like the strangulation was just like to put him down a bit, and then like the killing blow was actually the knife. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off the victim's already dead body. Order. What is the meaning of this, right? So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We know this button was not torn off during the fight, so the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to pin the crime on Enguarde. There's only one logical reason for doing something like that, was to pin the crime on Mr. Enguarde. There's no way anyone would put a bloodied button in their own pants. That's right, Mr. Enguarde was set up by the real killer, of course. And the real murderer is, well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then? Finally, I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down now, not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame him, is... How about the one person who had something against him anyways? like his rival, it makes the only sense. I don't believe it was the manager, so he's literally the only one. Right? Which of these four doesn't belong here? Up, down, left, right. Right? Thank you, I feel much better. I'm relieved to know that you can at least pick that much out. I worry about you. You seem to fail every time you try to make logical sense. Oh. Yep. I still don't believe it's her, though. I mean, yes, she makes sense as the criminal, but it doesn't make sense at the same time. Miss Adrian Andrews, I choose you. Really, with the Pokemon reference? You are Mr. Corda's killer. What? Okay, she's acting guilty, but I still think her being guilty doesn't make any logical sense. Order, Mr. Wright. This is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All the evidence points to Miss Andrews. What? How preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. That was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Ongard, naturally. The knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. The only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. Then, what about the button that was found in Matt's Hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Ongart was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own Hakama. Okay, it still makes, logically it makes no sense for her. I think she would more likely take the rap for it than, because if she supposedly didn't know Matt's secret, that makes no sense unless she's lying somewhere if she's the real killer and I haven't figured out where. The only person who could have put the button into Mr. Ongar's Hakama is the person who went to wake him up from his nap, which is you, yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. She knew that what was in it. The costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just a costume inside the guitar case? It could have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found in the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. Well, she came back to supposedly wake him up. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glasses showed that yes, indeed, she was in the classic days discovered of a dead body. That's what I was saying. And to top it all off, there is this photo. The photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on earth would believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Ongard. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Ms. Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I got her this time. So I get where the game is going, but at the same time, I think that to Andrews, finding the suicide note would have been the most important thing to her. And the only reason why she would push it off to someone else is if one said there was no note and she needed to stay out in the world to continue proving that there was, in fact, a real reason for her mentor committing suicide. So I think we need to investigate the suicide more, because that surrounding reason is the only, not getting her answer is the only reason why Andrews wouldn't just claim guilty and say like she's done her purpose. So I'm suspicious at how this is wrapping up because it doesn't make any sense to me. Miss Andrews, I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. The Fifth Amendment? Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. Law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination. By allowing a witness to not testify, the testimony can cause damage to themselves. What? Pleading the Fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ongart's room. Adrian Andrews. Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood? Alright. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things looked bad. You did a very good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix, but there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? Heh heh. What's wrong, right? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial, but it's reasonable doubt. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Corda. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Corda? I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. Also known as yes. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. There is nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I could be guilty of due to my silence. No, she's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do? Somehow we've landed in the worst possible situation. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid, definitive proof. But that's not true. In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is declare a recess. Recess? I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter, and at tomorrow's trial. Tomorrow? Ooh, we don't have a tomorrow. If we don't get a guilty verdict today, then... Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial... Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refused to testify. Now then, this court is... Thank you. It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Mr. Edgeworth, what are you? It's true Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, the topic of conversation was something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of. Then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that is very true, but actually, there is one little thing that I'm curious about. Miss Andrews, when you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and? Can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. Wasn't that the point of the entire time? So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to state if you have a reason behind your actions. I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he a friend or foe? I just don't know. The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please. What in the world is going on? The glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. That actually makes a lot more sense. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. What is going on in that brain of yours? I have no clue what's going on, although this does make a lot more sense than what was going on prior. I'm just gonna press on everything. And then who did you pour it for? Mr. Wright. Yeah, I figured that was the answer I was getting surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. So it was a mess? Are you sure it wasn't messy because of your fight with Mr. Corda? Yeah, that was really stupid, right? And Juan was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. Slumped over? Yes, he was just sitting there with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. It really looked like he was sleeping. Is it just me or did that right there sound a little odd? Let's see. What does the crime scene look like? But you didn't, like, see the knife sticking out of him? Okay, so I'm sitting like that. Yeah, you didn't see the gigantic knife. Really? That... my decision was right. That makes no sense, that she didn't see a gigantic knife. Then what did cross your mind? Thought maybe he had smashed everything up in his anger because he lost the Grand Prix, and then felt tired after his rampage, so he decided to take a nap. Anyways, that's what I thought. I see, so you didn't think he was dead at all. Which makes no sense. You thought he fainted? I thought he was asleep at first. Then the room was in such a messy state, I thought maybe he gotten into a fight with someone. And that's when you went to pour the glass of juice? Yes, he always has a hard time waking up. So Juan always has a glass of tomato juice to drink. I see. After that, what happened? When I realized he was dead, that's when I knocked it over. And how did you come to realize that he was in fact dead? I shook him over and over, but I never got a response. So I set the glass down and tried to take his pulse. I was shocked and staggered backward and knocked the glass face over. So that's what happened. Yes, that was weird. This is what it all comes down to, huh? This is the absolute end for both sides. Adrian is letting her guard down. Phoenix, now is our best chance to kill the prosecution's case. Isn't that a bit harsh, Miss Andrews? Will you tell us the truth this time? Like, the entire point of her supposedly not knowing he was dead makes no sense. Okay. I was right. It was just too early. Oops. Okay, yeah, I was right. That's why I was so confused. I just didn't point this at the right statement, which is really stupid. He was slumped over like that. There was a huge knife in him. That makes no sense. You could have done that from any statement from 3 to 6, and I would have been correct. But you're just being salty. Well, I'm also being salty that I think the game's being salty, but we'll just go with it. So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body. Exactly. What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking straight out from Mr. Corda's chest. Anyone who saw the scene would have immediately thought that he was a dead man. Well, you see, I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted, and then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink. Your point is, Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly, that you are the real killer. Interesting. It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Ongard, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible. You're wrong. Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt, I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan. But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so is that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because, Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. Then there is no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Matt Ongard's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? I don't think so. What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt Ongard. Your Honor, prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass a verdict at this time. But what? The reason is quite simple. The witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. The absolute real truth? What are you? Witness, don't you understand yet? Huh? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt Ongard will go free, and in its place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie. I don't believe you. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. Wait, what? If I spoke, then it would be all over. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. Miss Francisca von Karma. Huh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another, because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. And Francisca's a really strong personality. And then right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss Von Karma. Don't say a word no matter what happens. If you do, Matt Ongard will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now, and is clinging on to them. Then what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? No, she doesn't have to be. All we have to do now is get her not guilty. That is my only priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you. Please believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Help, please. Someone, help me. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor? The court cannot continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right? I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else who would expect the woman crying over there, right? Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix, right? I have to go for the not guilty. Right? I have to save Maya. No matter what she says, Miss Andrews is the only person it could be. Not to mention, you don't have a choice. I have to win a complete acquittal today. Your Honor, the defense believes there is enough evidence to substantiate our claim. Therefore, we motion that this court passes a verdict of not guilty as soon as possible. I'm disappointed in you, right? What have you learned in this past year? That I have to save Maya. Her life matters a bit more right now to me. That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth. You're wrong. Oh my gosh. What a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this, however. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls onto my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop. Mr. Edgeworth? This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. What? And because of this illness, she had tried to commit suicide in the past. Stop. Please stop. No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. That's... We promise not to bring it up. That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? We will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. The secret of her dependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. Please stop. I beg you. If people find out, I'll... If you're going to say you would choose death, that is no concern to me. What? How could you be so cold? However, before you die, I'll pull the truth from your still breathing lips. Edgeworth, what is wrong with you right now? No matter what I have to do. So will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk, but please help me. Okay, I think he went way too rough on her. Nothing matters anymore. When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted, honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then I stabbed Swan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. When I just finished, I was returning to Matt's room. I had a bit of an inconvenience, and that's why I ended up using the steel samurai costume. Did you get blood in yourself? Stabbed the body with the knife? But why would you do that? Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain person. Certain cowardly man. What do you mean by all of this? It might take this court a little while to understand, but this is the truth. The real killer is Matt, that scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like last time. Last time? So Miss Andrews stabbed the victim, Juan Corda, in the chest with the knife. However, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt on guard for the murder. And this is her crime. But you have no proof that he did the strangulation. What? How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer? Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination. I am completely perplexed. Let's see from here. I thought he had really fainted, I'm sure he did. But you could tell from the state of the room that there must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you say that you did not know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck. That scarf is part of the Jammin' Ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up, and went to pour the juice. Okay, that makes more sense. When I realized he was dead, that's when I formulated my plan. What is this plan you had? I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because Swan was going to expose Matt's weakest point to the world. So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence him for good. But he has no clue what we're talking about. We used the Psylocke system to prove it. Unless he's that good to avoid the Psylocks, but I highly doubt that. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt. So the forged pieces of evidence were the knife and the button. The first thing that came to mind was to plant the knife. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. That was so you could get the knife, correct? The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes toward him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime. And then I stabbed Juan's dead body with the knife and ripped off the button. So you were the one to stab the victim with the knife. It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then, when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect. So you thought to rip one of the buttons off and then plant it in Mr. Ongart's Hakahama. Yes, that was what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they? What accident did you have? An inconvenience? There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway. I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Lotta. There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth. That's Miss Oldbeck for you. I had already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once, so I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again. So that's why I ended up using the Nickel Samurai costume. You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you? Yes, I took it from Global Studios. Also put it in Blonde's guitar case the day before the award ceremony. You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct? Yes, Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there. And what was the secret? That I don't know. Anyway, I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the Nickel Samurai costume, then people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume. I think we've heard enough. So after that, you went back to Mr. Ongart's room and planted the button. Into Matt's hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it. My word, what does all this mean? Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal is Matt Ongard. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk. Francisca, huh? She said that I should, under no circumstances, confess to what I had done. That if I kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty for sure. I had no choice but to believe in her words. What does Francisca have something to do with all of this? What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she is not the real killer. Wait, Your Honor. The defense still... Right. It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything. Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of the witness is over, and so is today's trial. Couldn't establish that the witness was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright. But... Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning. Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately. That is all. Court is adjourned for today. Uh-oh. Today's trial, it's over, and I didn't win an acquittal. Witness, would you mind if I asked you something? What is it? Before you leave court today, I wonder if I might look at one thing. The card in your hand. It's had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it? Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I did not remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. Remember just now, I found it in the room on that day. The room? That day. Yes. I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. It was lying there right next to him. You found that card next to the victim's body? I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right? Yeah, I guess not, but it's still a strange card if you ask me. But as far as a clue to this case, I don't see why. Witness, that card. Give it to me, hurry. Edgeworth, do you have any idea what you have stupidly yet inherently done? I can't believe you hid this from me all this time. I didn't mean to. What is this all about? I've never seen Edgeworth so emotional before. That card. What in the world is it? And what does it mean? Does he also know something about Maya? It's also kind of messed up that she's been like handling it in her bare hands. Okay, so I guess I don't know if this investigation's happening quote unquote today in the world or tomorrow in verse, but like I had a feeling like outside of knowing that the killer is probably our murderer, Adrian's motive for killing Juan makes no sense in any way, which made it very hard for me to say, yeah, she's definitely the murderer. But I guess in Phoenix's thinking, he's like, I just have to get this case over, done with, and I don't think I took that into account, honestly. The fact that, like, it honestly makes more sense for Juan to have something to do with his murder than Matt at this point, and the way we're thinking about him. He has no Psylocks, so it's just like, unless he has dissociative identity disorder, and the personality he was in detention center didn't know, that was the only thing I could think of. But like Andrew's, she doesn't feel right for this case in any way, shape, or form. And then we do know that card from the little flashback we had of Maya. So it's like, I'm at the point of, does Edgeworth know? Does he not know? And I guess we didn't get acquitted today, so kind of a matter of, is Maya still safe, I suppose. But next time we will move on with our investigation and hope we have something to show for it for our next days in court. And I will see you guys later. Bye!